Wealth Guardians radio show, where it's all about your health, your wealth, and the freedom to do things your way. I am your host, Shawn Lee. He is Doug Ray. Happy weekend, one and all. Hope everybody out there is having just a fantastic weekend, being very productive, having fun, doing the things you need to do, and again, just living life. So great to have you here. Have a fantastic show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about some of the really the hidden keys in financial planning and how to generate tax-free retirement income, how to generate consistent income as far as buying your own pension plan, how to protect yourselves from those little-known landmines in retirement. Wouldn't you say, Doug?
I would, and I have to say I echo your thoughts about the weekend. I'm a big fan of weekends.
Me too.
Especially ones that have sunshine and blue sky.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. If you have questions, or if you'd like to get in contact with us, or if maybe you hear something on the show that kind of rings a bell, hey, I'd like to get a little bit more information about this particular subject, it's very easy. All you need to do is give us a call. That local number is 704-947-8444. Again, that local number, 704-947-8444, and one of our representatives will get right back to you.
Shawn, you missed last week. We had a good show with Van Miller on, and when we were sitting down together trying to come up with ideas for today's show, because unfortunately our guest, Professor Kotlikoff, had a family emergency and he couldn't be with us today. We've rescheduled him in June. Shawn and I thought one of the things we ought to try to do in today's show is to bring some solutions in for some of the problems that Van illustrated last week, because I don't know about you, but I tell you what, he had the hair on my neck standing on end, and especially that part about how in November legislation was enacted so that if we have another financial crisis, that deposits in banks could be seized in this country, which I just never thought would ever happen. And that's like Cyprus all over again.
That is scary stuff.
That is very scary. Years ago they had talked about, well, this was, I guess, a trial balloon the Obama administration raised when we were in the depths of the 2008 financial crisis. They talked about not seizing but taking over 401ks and converting that into a government-sponsored pension.
Right.
That went nowhere.
Right. So
I think that's what we should do today, Shawn, is just try to illustrate some of these problems and then come back with a solution for them.
Absolutely. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, one of the things that Van talked about right out of the gate was the spiraling healthcare costs.
Okay.
And obviously that leads into long-term care and so forth, because that is, I tell folks, that's a major killer of a good retirement plan. If you don't have a long-term care episode covered financially, I mean, it's going to wipe you out.
Well, and I see a report pretty much every year Fidelity puts out that the average 65-year-old retiree couple is going to need anywhere to the tune of $240,000 to $250,000 of excess costs going towards health care. Now, that's not even talking about long-term care. That's just outside of regular, the normal costs. So if you think of that, do you have that much money set aside, or enough money so that it'll grow, so they'll cover $240,000 to $250,000 worth of excess costs over your lifetime? You know,
Van actually cited that statistic on the show, and I'm afraid he's right. I mean, it's going to be a staggering expense in the future. And I made the comment to Van, I said, I thought we had this fixed when they passed this Affordable Care Act, but apparently not.
Not happening. So especially if you're, nearing retirement, if you have questions regarding, do you have enough money set aside for health care issues, we'd love to sit down and talk with you. You can call us here locally. That number is 704 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. Now, Doug, let's talk a little bit about long-term care. LTC, as it's called, is, a lot of people don't want to talk about it just because it's kind of depressing. You think of nursing homes and going to visit grandma and all of those images that come from it. Let's talk about the modern-day long-term care and how that really fits into a good financial plan.
So that brings up a great point, Shawn, because people don't like to talk about long-term care because of what you just said, and also I think because it's an expensive insurance, and it's also people have it in their minds that if they never use it, they've wasted the money all those years.
Right.
Much like the premiums you pay for automobile coverage, if you never have a wreck, you've pretty much wasted those. But long-term care premiums are more expensive, obviously, and getting more expensive every day.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, we have other alternatives. There's other avenues to get you covered, and that's due to the Pension Protection Act of 2006. I've got a couple case studies I want to bring into play here that I think just illustrate the point very well. I've got a couple, they became clients last year, and he's 62 and she's 60.
Okay.
He actually inherited a nice little IRA from his parents. Now, if you don't know this, let me tell you, if you inherit an IRA, you're required by the IRS to take out something called a required minimum distribution every year, regardless of your age.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if it's your own IRA, it starts at 70 and a half. But in this case, this client had to start taking it out at 62. Well, for sentimental reasons, he didn't want to do anything different with the IRA. It had a lot of Exxon stock in it, and I think his dad worked for Exxon, so he liked to keep the stock where it was. But he didn't need the income coming out of this IRA, that required minimum distribution. So what we were able to do is to take some, not all of that required minimum distribution, and purchase for him and his wife a long-term care policy, because actually both of them realized that they needed to have long-term care in their overall portfolio.
Right.
So what we were able to do for a premium of about $5,500 a year is to get them an initial base of benefits of $166,000.
Okay, so that's like a pool of money for long-term care. Gotcha.
And that would pay out at about $5,000 a month.
Okay.
Now, $5,000 isn't going to cover the complete cost of care in this area, but that's okay. They had other sources to do that with.
Sure.
Now, it covers both him and his wife. And what's the neat thing about this policy is we added a continuation of benefit rider on it. And what that means is this. Let's say the husband goes into a facility first and stays there long enough to completely use up that $166,000 pool of money.
Okay.
Well, the continuation of benefit rider not only will pay for him for the rest of his life, regardless of how long he's in the facility, and let me add this. Genworth just paid out the largest claim ever for one long-term care claim, over $1.3 million.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, getting back to the story, not only will it cover him for the rest of his life, but if his wife needs it as well, it'll cover her for the rest of her life too.
Well, and if you look at that and, you have over a 60-70% probability that you're going to need long-term care at some point in your life, is that a safe bet, to go ahead and do something like that?
Absolutely, it's a safe bet. And you know what? They can get 70% of their premium back if they never use it, or if they pass away, it's going to pay $166,000 tax-free to their beneficiary.
So somebody's going to get some benefit. If you have questions about this type of coverage, does it make sense for you? Is it affordable? Can you qualify for it? Give us a call. Total number here is 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. And if you're tired of low CD rates, you're going to want to keep it right here. We've got some great alternatives coming up right after the break. You're back with the Wealth Guardians radio show. He's Doug Ray. I am Shawn Lee. Happy weekend, one and all. We've been talking about long-term care, health insurance, ways to protect those assets. Again, it's not the traditional long-term care plan. There are great programs out there that really work as what we call hybrid plans, Doug. Isn't that correct?
That is exactly right. They are hybrid plans.
So you have the ability to use them in a lot of different ways. If you don't use it, you don't lose it necessarily. There's somebody that's going to get value. So definitely something to check into. If you have questions, you can give us a call. Number here is 704-947-8444. That's 704-947-8444. Now, before the break, we mentioned something a little bit about CD rates. You know, I get this all the time, Doug, as far as, what's a good alternative for CDs? I want to keep my money safe. I don't want to keep my money locked up for the next 10, 20, 30 years, but I want to get a decent rate on those funds. But CDs, I like the safety, but they're just not paying anything.
Well, they're paying miserable. I mean, you can't even buy a bucket of gumballs with what they're paying you.
In some cases, that's true. So, I want to talk, especially for the listeners out there who are CD owners. Now, maybe you've just renewed a CD. Maybe you've got CDs coming up for renewal. You're not sure what to do. Well, I want to mention a potential alternative, and it's something that we've seen a lot of traction, especially over the last couple years, because it gives you much greater opportunity for good interest growth, but it still has that FDIC insurance in case the bank goes under. It still has that principal protection. Just you can't lose money, just like any other CD. But this is what we would call an index-linked CD. Okay, so we index the growth of that CD to some form of either stock market index. We can index it to the growth in commodities. We could index it to gold. We could index it to silver. We can index it to currencies. If you think the value of U.S. currencies is going down compared to other countries, we can take it from that perspective. We can index it to straight stocks, which is pretty cool. So if you're still bullish on the stock market, and you have the ability to get growth even if, and here's the thing, you have the ability to get growth, but you have that principal protection, which is so very important, especially if you're a retiree or a pre-retiree.
Shawn, these have actually been out for years, and I find that a lot of the listeners don't even know about them. And what's amazed me is they got started, golly, I guess 15 years ago, and pretty much the only thing you could get was an S&P 500 linked CD. But as you just said a moment ago, you can get an index to pretty much anything in a CD now. Which is,
you're absolutely right. Here's one of my favorites. So here's kind of an example. This particular CD, it's a 5-year CD. Okay, so these types of CDs, typically they're going to have a minimum return guarantee. So even if, like, let's say on this 5-year period, the index you link to does nothing but go down, you're going to get some minimal interest. Okay, so it's going to pay something. So in this case, it's going to pay 0.5% each year, guaranteed for 5 years, okay, even if the market or the underlying index or the stock goes down continuously.
Well, that's about what they pay now anyway.
Which is
yeah.
close. I mean,
gumballs.
They may be a little bit higher depending on, where you are. But let's look at it. So this particular CD, let's say we're going to link to a group of stocks. So we've got some pretty good stocks in here. Apple, all right, they just released the new iWatch, of course, and everybody's crazy about that. We've got Caterpillar. We've got Ford Motor Company, some large cap stocks, Intel, Coca-Cola, Pfizer, Target. Who doesn't shop at Target?
Oh, my wife loves it.
Loves it there. So what's neat about this is they'll take an annual calculation on this group of stocks. So if the group of stocks goes up, okay, in each individual stock they'll track it. They'll track it on a yearly basis up to a max of, let's say, 5%. Okay. So if all of the stocks in this basket go up, and let's say they go up 5%, then you will get a interest rate that year of 5%. Yeah. Okay, they'll just take the average. Now, if, let's say, one or two of the stocks goes down and then the rest of them goes up, again, they'll take an average. They will, the most you can get in those stocks if the market does well is 5%. If one of the stocks goes down, let's say 15%, there's a downside cap. Okay, now that
I
doesn't,
like that.
Which it does have a floor. Now, even if it has a floor of minus 15%, that doesn't mean you can lose. You still can't lose any money. They're just going to take that against the growth of the other stocks that are still going positive.
Yeah, they just cap that into the mix of the calculation.
Into the calculation. So the bottom line is you can't lose anything, but if this basket of stocks is more positive than negative, you can get positive returns. And if you look at it historically, you're probably going to get better returns over time than you would in that traditional CD that's only paying 1 or 2%.
And Shawn, let's go back. You said that they're going to calculate that over a 1-year period. Mm-hmm. So you've got a 5-year CD.
Yep.
Every year they calculate it, and then they lock the gain in?
The gain is locked in.
I like that.
So it has an annual reset feature. All right. So the next year your principal's bigger. You can't lose anything. You can't go backwards. But then you have that ability to get a higher rate of return.
So it's very similar to an index annuity type product, but yet this is a CD with the FDIC coverage, and it's linked to a basket of stocks.
Right. So, and what's nice about this is there are different offerings that are available that might be able to link you to, different types of assets, different types of styles out there that maybe you don't have in your current portfolio. Hey, I want to get some exposure to, XYZ mutual fund or this particular stock or international equities and things like that. So it's not for everybody, but, if you're a CD buyer, all right, you like your CDs, you want to make sure your principal's protected, this is a great way to do it and something you really need to check out.
And Shawn, can they be bought in IRA accounts?
Absolutely. IRA, non-qualified, really anything, can hold these types of accounts. If you have questions, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the index CD type programs, all you do is need to give us a call. That number is 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. And Doug, before we move on, I want to talk. I want to give you one more example. This is a pretty cool deal. This is one of those more traditional index CDs that is linked to just the S&P 500. Okay. So we're talking S&P 500, top 500 stocks in the U.S. economy across market sector. And with this one, it gives you the opportunity for what we call it's a quarterly sum. Okay, and so what it does is it will, anytime you have some type of index structure, there's going to be what we call a modifier, something that limits the upside potential. Okay,
right.
Now you can still have good upside potential, but there has to be a limiting factor, because without that limiting factor, you'd also have to accept the risk of the downside. Okay,
correct.
So the trade-off there is with no downside, you have less upside potential. But what's neat about this one, I actually ran a back testing on this. This is what we call a quarterly sum with a 6% quarterly cap. So it's looking at the S&P 500 on a quarterly basis. All right. So let's say the first 3 months, the S&P goes up 5%. Okay. Well, they're going to track that and they say, okay, well, the first quarter you're up plus 5. Let's say the next 3 months the S&P is up 8%. All right. Then they're going to track that up to the first 6%. So there's the cap, the quarterly cap. So then they're going to add in a plus 6. Okay. Now, you're not actually getting interest. They're just calculating the positives and negatives of the market. Let's say the third 6 months, the market goes down 10%.
Okay.
They're going to actually log in that change, that minus 10. All right. They're going to do that quarter after quarter after quarter. Now, this particular example is a 7-year CD, all right? It's going to have a minimum guaranteed interest rate of 6 to 7% over that 7-year period. Now, when I back-tested it going back to January 1 of 2008 to January 1 of 2015, that's a 7-year period, including one of the biggest downturns in history.
A 33% downturn.
33%. Yeah. It still would have averaged a 5.28% annualized rate of return.
I think that's strong for a perfectly safe vehicle.
Pretty good for safe money. If you have questions, call us 704-947-8444. 704-947-8444. And we'll be happy to get some information out to you, talk to you about your specific situation to see if it makes sense. Next, we've got information on how to develop a tax-free retirement. Just keep it right here.
And this is the Wealth Guardians. I'm Doug Ray. He's Shawn Lee, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way. Today we've been talking about solutions to financial problems. If you're sick and tired of low CD rates, Shawn, what's that number again?
Yeah, if you're tired of those low CD rates, you want better earnings potential and still want that principal protection, all you need to do is give us a call. Number is 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. One of our representatives will get back to you and get you the information you need.
That sounds like a plan.
I love it. Hey, let's talk a little bit about tax-free retirement.
I love that too.
You know, I look at this and I get excited when we're talking about this subject, because there's two things that I really love. Working in the financial services industry, I love helping people save money on taxes. I love helping people get good returns with very little or no risk. Those are the things that really give me joy. And what we're going to talk about right now is something that combines both. It actually has no risk of loss. It has excellent earnings potential, and it has the ability to kick off a tax-free income stream. Now, Doug, last week you were talking with Van Miller regarding this, and I know Van has talked in the past about tax rates, which way are tax rates headed. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why do we think tax rates are going up in and above the huge deficit or the huge national debt that we have?
Well, I was about to say that one big reason is $18.4 trillion in debt. That's what's calculated. But as Van spoke about last week, and what Professor Kotlikoff will talk about as well, is the unfunded liabilities of $220-some-odd trillion.
Right.
So are taxes going up in the future? I unfortunately believe they will.
I would guess that would be an affirmative. All right, so let's talk about an idea where we combine tax efficiencies with what we call indexing.
All right.
So tax efficiencies. We actually use a special type of life insurance contract. Mm-hmm. Okay, and a lot of people, there's a lot of confusion out there as how life insurance can be used. A lot of people think life insurance, they think, okay, it pays off when I die. Mm-hmm. All right. What about life insurance that pays off when you live? All right, there are ways that can be structured. Now, we use a specialized process where we use a life insurance contract, and we use a specialized contract that really we can dial down the internal cost of that life insurance. There's a special way you can do it. Now, I see other advisors trying to use this type of program, but I see them using it in kind of an old school way where it's still costing their clients a lot of money. Okay, mm-hmm. It costs a lot of buildup. But if you use it the way that we use it, we actually are able to really drive down those internal costs of insurance, for the life insurance contract. Now, the reason you're doing this is not because you want life insurance, but you want the tax efficiencies that come from the life insurance. All right. So what we do is we put money away into a tax-deferred savings account. For really is all it is. All right. We're going to pump this money away into it, and if you do it based on the IRS guidelines, you're able at some point in the future to be able to take money out on a tax-free basis. Okay. Now let me repeat that. Tax-free basis. It's one of the purest forms of tax efficiencies out there, because even when you take it out, it does not impact the effects of your Social Security income. So you're not going to have more of your Social Security income tax. It's not going to bump you up into a higher effective tax rate. All right. It is totally tax-free, free and clear, off the books. Has no impact on you whatsoever.
I love that idea, Shawn. There's only 3 ways to create tax-free income. One is a municipal bond portfolio, and that can have an impact on your Social Security taxes.
Right.
And the rates are low. We know that.
Right.
Number 2 is a Roth IRA. Well, you're limited to how much you can put in a Roth every year. With this program Shawn's talking about, there's no limitations on that.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of it. You have the ability to really take control of your own destiny. Now, I'm going to talk about the second piece of this, and then we're going to talk about a couple of case studies. But the second piece of this is the indexing component. We've got the tax-free component working, tax-deferred / tax-free, but now we have the indexing component. Now, as mentioned earlier, we were talking about index CDs. Let's talk about indexed life insurance contracts. All right, so this particular indexed life insurance contract has a modifier, as we talked about before, but it's based off the S&P 500. So once per year, they're going to look at the S&P. Was it up? Was it down? If it was up, you get some returns. If it was down, you don't lose anything. Okay, pretty cool. Now, the modifier on this one, for example, is a cap strategy. So let's say we have a 14% cap. Now, Doug, what did the S&P 500 do last year? January 1 to January 1.
It's about 11%, wasn't it?
Actually, it was north of 13%.
Was it? Okay.
North of 13%. I actually had clients who had contracts like this that actually received 13.5% interest credits to their account because they capped out. Okay, the market did 13, they got 13. Now, if the market does 20, guess what they're going to get? If it's a 14% cap, they're going to get 14% interest that year. Mm-hmm. If the market goes negative, if we have one of those big corrections that John Bogle is talking about within the next 10 years, he's saying 2 major declines, possibly double-digit, possibly 30, 40, 50% declines, guess what you make in your contract?
Zero.
I didn't lose anything, but it's okay. I didn't mind not making anything because I had that downside protection. Now, if we look at this over the last, let's just say 30 years, this type of contract with that type of indexing structure would have averaged about 8.4% returns. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty strong in any market.
Absolutely strong.
Okay, because we don't worry about losing our money. It's protected. It's guaranteed. You can't go backwards. Now, if you have questions about indexing, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, I recommend go ahead, give us a call right now. That number you can reach us here locally is 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444.
Shawn, let me add something to that tax-free income strategy.
Sure.
I believe so strongly in that concept that, from time to time, new clients will ask us, do you do this, what you've recommended for us? And
right.
I'll say, absolutely. Shawn, several years ago, I designed one of those plans for myself and my wife. And in our situation, it's designed to pay out for each of us when we turn 70, $70,000 a year tax-free for the rest of our life.
$70,000.
That's $140,000 a year tax-free to our family for the rest of our life. I love it.
That is impressive.
I love it.
That is impressive. And what's interesting about this, it's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. I have an example here of a 50-year-old couple in good health. They want to put in $25,000 per year. They're going to retire at 65. They want to start drawing off income at 65. We did this, and I ran the simulation here. It's going to kick off about almost $38,000 a year of tax-free income for the rest of both of their lives. That's strong.
That is strong.
That is strong. When you add that to Social Security, when you add that to their pensions, I mean, it is the who was it? Albert Einstein that said the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Right.
This is a living testament to that, and especially if you've got, let's say you're a younger listener, 35-year-old couple. You put in $10,000 a year, and let's say you're at preferred rates, $10,000 a year. You're going to let it build up until you are 65. Now, hold on to your hat. It's going to pay you about $68,000 per year. $68,000 per year based off of a $10,000 per year investment. I mean, that's making an IRA contribution for you and your wife each year.
It is, and you know what? I want to make sure everybody understands this. We can design these plans for you based on whatever income needs you have, not just $70,000 or $68,000. Anything you want that you can fit into your budget. And I just want to make one statement here, just to cover all bases. Folks, just because I said it's going to pay us $70,000 a year at 70, I don't plan on retiring at 70. That's not my goal, okay?
Right.
Just to get that out of the way. Well, we've got to go to a break. So you've been listening to the Wealth Guardians with Doug Ray and Shawn Lee. Give them that number one more time, Shawn.
Yep. Just get more information. You call us 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. One of our representatives will get right back to you to talk about your specific situation. You're back with Wealth Guardians Radio. It's all about your health, wealth, and the freedom to live life your way. I'm Shawn Lee. He's Doug Ray. We've been talking about a lot of things today: tax-free retirement, ways to improve your yields on CDs, things like that. Before we move on from the tax-free issue, though, Doug, I do want to mention if you have questions regarding how to create a tax-free retirement income for yourself, whether you're 35, 45, 55 years old, we would love to sit down with you one-on-one, show you exactly how those types of plans work that can give you great potential for growth, even if, in good market years, protect you from loss if the market turns south, and give you that tax-deferred plus tax-free income guaranteed for it's a fantastic program. We'd love to talk with you about it. If you'd like more information, you can call us here locally at 704-947-8444. Again, that number, 704-947-8444. You want to make that call right now while you're thinking about it. One of our representatives will get back to you after the weekend's over to talk a little bit more about these programs. And by the way, if you are one of the first 5 callers to call in and request some more information, we're going to send you a free book. What's the book, Doug?
It's called A Stress-Free Retirement from a friend of mine, Patrick Kelly.
Patrick Kelly. So it's going to talk about a lot of concepts on how to develop that stress-free retirement, non-conventional ways of building your money, growing your money. Sometimes it takes going against the herd to really fulfill your goals and accomplish the things you want to accomplish in your life. I highly recommend you be one of the next 5 callers. Again, that number is 704-947-8444. 704-947-8444, and you can get your free copy.
It sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome. Well, Doug, you've got some things you want to talk about. I see you're kind of biting at the hip.
I am.
Let's get going.
You know what I want to do? I want to dovetail right into what you were talking about in the last segment, using insurance to create a tax-free retirement. I'm going to show you how to use insurance to do something completely different. You know, Shawn, in our business, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Sure.
Well, I think it's 3 years ago, about this time, I was sitting at my desk, and a longtime client calls me up. She's 78 years old, and she says, Doug, I got $75,000 sitting in the bank making absolutely nothing. And she says, do you have anything that I can put this money in, and it's got to be safe. It's got to absolutely be safe, and I got to be able to get it if I need it.
Gotcha.
And I said, yeah, I've got a couple ideas. So remember, she's 78,
okay,
in reasonably good health. So we have a program out there. It's the technical term is a modified endowment contract. It's a specially designed life insurance policy that takes a one-time payment. Okay.
Gotcha.
So what's going to happen is the money goes into this policy. Immediately, the life insurance company gives you a 12% bonus.
Okay.
So she puts $75,000 into the policy, and immediately it's worth $84,000.
Okay.
Day one.
Gotcha.
Now, in her bank CD, she'd probably have to be there 2,000 years to get a $9,000 interest earnings.
Right.
So it also does something else for her. It gives her a $102,000 death benefit.
Okay.
Now that means if the good Lord takes her away, then her beneficiary is going to get $102,000 tax-free.
But she started with 75. That's 102. So you're looking at $27,000 more day one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it does some other neat things. She can also use that death benefit in life. She can turn that into home health care payment money or long-term care payment money. Right out of the bat, she gets $2,833 a month for long-term care for 36 months.
Okay.
Or she can get $1,400 a month for 60 months for home health care. And by the way, those payments are tax-free to her, believe it or not. Now, if she doesn't need this money for anything, it just sits there and it grows. It's indexed to the S&P 500.
Okay.
So she started this in May of 12. By May of 13, her $75,000 with the earnings and interest had grown to $96,568.
Oh, my goodness.
Pretty good. Her long-term care and home health care benefits grew as well. They went from $28.33 to $39.75 for the long-term care piece.
What about the life insurance piece?
The death benefit went to $143,000.
Okay, now can that ever go backwards?
It cannot go backwards.
Okay, so the account value, her value's locked in, and her death benefit and her long-term care benefits are locked in.
Locked in. Absolutely locked in. Now, thankfully, we've had good markets.
Right.
Last year, when I did her annual review with her,
Mm-hmm.
her account was now worth $103,923.
Okay.
Death benefit had grown to $150,000. Her long-term care benefit was $41.88. Remember, it started at $28.33.
Right.
It's growing pretty nicely. And her home health care benefit's $25.18.
So let me get this straight, though. So just 3 years prior, okay, she started with $75,000. Today, it's worth over $102 as far as real money.
Actually, she's going to have an anniversary in a couple weeks, and I went back in and I actually have done the calculation, and if the market stays about where it is now,
right,
her account now is going to be worth about $110.
110. So if, let's say, play devil's advocate, let's say she needs her money tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, she needs to cash it out. But ballpark, how much can she walk away with?
She could walk away with $103,000.
$103,000. Again, that's $78,000 more. I'm sorry, $28,000 more than she had when she started with this money just sitting there earning nothing in the CD.
Exactly.
Okay.
3 years ago. Now, why wouldn't you do that? If you're sitting there with monies in a CD and it's earning nothing, why wouldn't you do something like this? Because it's perfectly safe, just like your CD is, but it gives you so much leverage. You can use this money in other ways.
Let me clarify that. Now, if you got that money sitting in a CD because you're going to go build a house or something like that,
yeah,
obviously you wouldn't want to do that. But if you've got that money sitting there, it's rainy day money, you're retired, you're probably never going to tap into it because you've got plenty of income coming in. It's earmarked in case, hey, if I have a health issue or if something crazy comes up, why would you want to just have that value eaten away by inflation and low interest rates? Does that make a bit of sense?
It does. And let me add one more little thing to this. All those numbers I quoted to you are net of fees.
Okay.
So the total return, she's averaged 13.81% per year since inception, net of fees.
Wow. And that's in a safe money vehicle.
A safe money vehicle. They're out there, folks.
They are now, and again, is that something that makes sense for you and your situation? Well, we don't know. The way we can find out is if you've got money sitting around that's not, you don't feel like it's working as hard for you as it needs to, or if you've got questions and concerns about the market, maybe you're scared that, when is that next big downturn going to happen? I would highly recommend all you need to do to get some clarity on your financial situation is make a phone call. It's easy. Write the number down right now. That number is 704-947-8444. Again, 704-947-8444. Or you can go to wealthguardiansradio.com. That's wealthguardiansradio.com.
Let me say one quick thing. we didn't cherry pick any of these cases. These cases are like all the others that we have out there. And for you folks, if you want to see their statements, I blanked out the name and the account numbers and got their permission from the owners. You can look at those statements.
Absolutely. So, again, keep it right here. Hope everybody out there has a wonderful weekend. And you've been listening to the Wealth Guardians radio show.
The opinions expressed by Beacon Wealth Advisors and guests on this radio show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of this radio station. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it's suitable for your specific situation. Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You're encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to subject covered. Investment advisory services are offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor. Brookstone and Beacon Wealth Advisors are independent of each other.